Good morning. Welcome to TCCA 2020. This is our 10th anniversary. What if I have a script? Thank you for joining us for our 10th anniversary celebration of TCCA. We are excited to recognize attendees from all over the world who have been registered to be with us today. My name is Shayna Glass, and I'll be hosting this session along with my co-host, Anna. Before I introduce the presenter, I want to go over a few things with you. The title of this session is, and I'm looking for it, give me a second. The title of this session is All Things CS, Getting Your Questions Answered. And it will end promptly at 10:50 this morning. So 10:50 Central Time, so that we can prepare for the next session. If you have any questions during the presentation, please enter them in the chat on the right of your screen. Towards the end of the session, I will give the presenter a 10-minute warning to allow time to wrap up and answer a few additional questions you may have. With that, I have the pleasure of introducing Nugma and Tanya from Microsoft TEALS, from the TEALS program. So Nugma, after graduating from Stanford University with a master's in education, she's taught students from diverse backgrounds. While teaching, Nugma earned a master's degree in management information systems. She shared her newfound knowledge about leading the first Python classes on her campus. Nugma also volunteers in the community to support advanced education programming. Welcome, Nugma. Tanya started out at IBM selling computers, software, and services to the education industry when classroom computers and technologies were the first being installed, and an IBM PC was a big deal, and she put emphasis on big deal. Her classroom experience includes 7 years teaching math and computer science in high schools. Over the years, she's had the privilege to be involved with workforce development and training programs, and she is passionate about closing that gap and making an impact in the computer science education space. So let's welcome Tanya. And weirdly enough, they have added me to this session. But I'm putting on a different hat for this particular session, as I am the Code.org Rice University School Mathematics Project Regional Partner Manager, which means that I support all Code.org facilitators here in the Houston area that supports all of Houston and Harris County around. I'm also president of CSCA Houston, and I work here in Aldine, where we're putting on TCCA, as the program director of Tech Apps in STEM. So let's welcome everybody who's in this room joining us right now for any questions that they may have. Ladies.
Thank you, Shayna. So we're going to kick it off with a quick, very quick summary of the TEALS program, because we just did a whole session on that last breakout, but now we want to just give a quick overview. So if you're with us last time, bear with us. It'll be quite quick, and then we'll go into some more great resources for CS. So the TEALS program is actually, we coach it as professional development for teachers that's embedded into the classroom. It's for high school CS teachers who are just getting into a certain curricula and are learning how to share their newfound knowledge of computer science. It's really powerful because we take and we find really wonderful volunteers from the community who want to give back to students and teachers in the classroom. And we match them up with these wonderful teachers that we found, and then we train everyone together and send them on their way for support throughout the school year. So we are so pleased to be in Aldine for a TEALS, and we actually are in a lot of different schools across the city. We are in about, let's say, 35 schools across the city, and we have 4 alumni schools with teachers who have graduated out of the program. And so we are very pleased to be working with private, public, charter people all over this city in Houston. But if you're visiting us from elsewhere in the US and maybe even in Canada, we are all over the map because we have teachers everywhere who want to learn how to teach CS and give back, and volunteers who want to give back to their community. So we do this in a variety of different ways. Some teachers who come into this content are, they might have be contemplating taking their certification exam, or they might have just taken it, and they are excellent at pedagogy. They know how to work with students, but maybe they're not as comfortable with that CS content. In that case, we start off in a co-teach model. Those volunteers will come in, lead direct instruction, ask students really great questions. They'll model how to talk about this subject, and the teachers can sit back and learn that content and ask our volunteers great questions. Once the teacher feels a little more comfortable after a year or two, we head into a lab support model where the volunteers come in, and rather than teaching the content, they will support students and answer questions offline with the teacher. So we hope to, in that way, to create kind of a graduated release of responsibility, rather than it being like, all right, you've got great volunteers 1 year, and the next year you're all on your own. And then once the teacher feels 100% comfortable in teaching that content, they're still a part of our alumni network where they can work with volunteers to answer that one-off question or have a guest speaker come in every once in a while. We support a variety of curricula. We have our Introduction to Computer Science, and there's various curricula we support, including Carnegie Mellon University's, along with our own free open source curricula through the TEALS program. But at the end of the day, it is super powerful to have students taking that programming course, and that's what that introduction level course usually is. I know the TEALS supports Python in that course. Afterwards, we have our AP Computer Science Principles subject, which, if you're not familiar with that one, it's a very base level introduction into the world of CS, and it is AP credit, so it is college credit, but it would be equivalent to a class in college for non-CS majors. We have wonderful partners, including code.org there, and you can learn more about this curricula at that aka.ms link. And then finally, our volunteers will also come in and support in either co-teach or lab support the AP Computer Science A, which is like an introduction course for CS majors at a college level. It covers Java all year, and it is wonderful because those students, if they pass that AP exam, have that college credit at the end of the year. So we are very pleased to support curricula from TEALS, but also wonderful curricula providers that are College Board approved in that model. So I'm going to pass it on along to Tanya. Tanya, I know I went super fast, so if there's anything else I missed, please let me know. But I know we have so much great content. If you want to learn more about TEALS, please go to Microsoft.com/TEALS. There's great information there. Or just follow myself or Tanya on Twitter and reach out to us. We're happy to start that conversation if you are interested in getting support for your high school.
Shayna's going to go ahead and describe some of the curricula and the support from code.org, because in this space we want to talk about the whole K-12, really K-16 kind of path. So I'll let Shayna go ahead and take this part.
Yes, so in partnership with TEALS, one of the offerings is code.org's, and Tanya mentioned in the previous session that they also support in code.org the CS discoveries and the AP CS principles when taught in high school. So code.org offers the K, like she said, the K through 16 spectrum of curriculum. They start off by offering CS fundamentals courses, which you see it says A through F, but that's because they don't want students in third grade to see course 1. But it really starts with the pre-reader, and that can go through middle school, and then it transitions over to CS discoveries, which can be taught from 6th through 10th grade. So you can choose where you would want to place that course. Here in Aldine, and several districts, they actually use the CS Discoveries curriculum as the fundamentals of computer science. It is an equivalent for that course, which is the first a level 1 course in the CTE pathways underneath programming and cybersecurity. I think it's even under networking, under the networking pathway, but that is one of the courses that align. There's a video here. I will drop the link in the chat so that you can watch a video if you're interested in the CS Discoveries curriculum. The next level is here's a few of the things that's covered in that curriculum. There's Web Lab, Game Lab, and App Lab, and they're all scaffold. So students get exposure to all three of those platforms within CS Discoveries. And then you also see at the end that there's a circuit playground because there is a component of physical computing built into the curriculum. The next level after this, I'm going too fast. Go ahead, you can go to the next screen. Co.org provides, and this is why they are partnered with TEALS, they provide all of the lessons very thoroughly. All of the lessons have high quality videos. Several of them, depending on the level, they actually show you what it looks like in the classroom from a teacher's view. So you can see and walk it in preparation and planning as a teacher. There's teacher forums with additional resources that would be Google Forms, assessments, things that you may want outside of the lesson plans. There are projects and rubrics. They provide the entire curriculum guide. And there is a teacher dashboard that turns you into a superhero. So the kids don't have to see it. You can flip it on and keep working. Something I wanted to add on the lesson plans that's new since we are in a virtual environment. They have been working painstakingly. This is co.org. It's a small group of people, but they do this. They have been creating the lessons in 3 formats. So they have it as if you are just face to face. They have their detailed lessons. They also have made it if you are virtual or if you are socially distancing. So you can select the lesson that fits the model in which you teach, which has been extremely helpful. I know there's a few teachers in here in the chat now who actually teach they teach this curriculum, and they have been utilizing all of those resources. They have it for CSD and the CS Discoveries and the CS Principles, and they also have the all of these additional resources for the CS Fundamentals as well. So take advantage. Then there's the high school, which is tied back to College Board, which is what Tanya spoke of and Nugma spoke of, which uses all of these different widgets, and they are aligned. So the students, they're building and preparing to build apps, which will help them to be successful on the creative task when they take the AP exam, which if you are not familiar, that course is a little different than other AP exams. So with the supports, and I'm going to mention this, with the support of TEALS and the volunteers, if you are a new teacher that will be teaching this, and you get all of these resources that Tanya is showing you, even practice tasks, creative tasks. If you are getting all of these resources and you have the TEALS volunteer or co-teach, or what's the other one? There's a co-teach, and there is I can't think of the name of it, but you get supports. I'm drawing a blank.
Yes.
Get my cursor over to the.
But when you have these supports built in, your students really don't have a choice but to be successful in this course. They will score a 3 or above on College Board on that exam. So, they go hand in hand for student success. And that's what everybody needs to know. So applications are opening in 3 days for co.org. So if you have not gone through the co.org program, if you have not done CS Discoveries and you are interested, scholarships are available. And anyone here, and this is nationally. So I will place the link in here for anyone, and they even do have some programs overseas. We do have some distant learners with us today, but definitely take a look at both of these programs and how you can get the support you need in the classroom.
So diversity and inclusion, just want to address it as a topic that is near and dear to both co.org and Microsoft. And so if you notice the videos and the materials that are provided by co.org address and include a variety of examples and people from all different walks of life and all different parts of the country. And so it's important to each of us and then to the computer science community as a whole that we address diversity and inclusion within our space. We know that for the best outcomes to occur, we need to have a variety of opinions in the room. And so if we train our students in this space and we train all of our students in this space, then we will help ourselves for future outcomes. Like Shana mentioned before, it's like we're talking about the next generation and the generation after that. So we want to make sure that we enroll a diverse set of students. The population should look like the school demographics in the computer science class. So whatever your school demographics are, your computer science demographics should be the same in like manner to math, English, science, and social studies. We believe teachers should incorporate inclusive instruction techniques and tools to meet a variety of needs. It's not something that teachers are unfamiliar with. And so, because we have to address accommodations and address the needs of individual learners already. And so, we want to make sure that we take into account a variety of student instructional techniques. And then we want the learning space that students are in to be inviting to everyone. And we don't want it to seem like there are any exclusionary activities or any exclusionary things happening in the classroom. Going forward, like Shana mentioned, the code.org applications open in 3 days. The TEALS applications are open and live today. We're going to we onboard schools. So after our application process, we onboard schools during the second semester. So the school interview, and then we begin the volunteer recruiting process also towards through March through May. We do school interviews January through March. And so by the summer, we're ready to train, like Numlin mentioned, the volunteer teaching team, which the teacher is the leader of, and the volunteers are part of that process. So we do extensive training in the summer to that end. So our school application, if you want to jot that down, is aka.ms TEALS school application, or you can just go to microsoft.com/TEALS and take a look at that. I want to make sure, and I'm trying to read the chat, and because we wanted to make sure that we have opportunity to answer any questions. We've talked about programs, and if you did attend last session, before we pivot, we want to make sure that we get any questions answered. And Shana, I don't know if no, this tool doesn't allow for questions. I see Valerie is sponsoring the coding club at her school. Yay! And we like teachers like Valerie to participate. I don't see any specific comments or questions in the comment section. So I'm going to go ahead and pivot to our next section, which we are going to talk about some of the resources that are available and policy impact. The policy impact across the nation and within the state. So we've made some recent announcements in the state of Texas that has placed CS under the CTE department. And so we're talking about that now with schools and teachers because it is impacting them. And we need to kind of get our minds wrapped around what that means to me individually and what that means to me as a building principal. So we've got the section as we're going into computer science. If you notice, it's programming and software development, as well as cybersecurity are now all under the STEM endorsement area or the STEM pathway, where they previously were not. So that we think that's pretty significant because we have always believed that computer science is fundamental to STEM. Want to point out a couple of reports, and I will put the links to this in the chat. Well, maybe I won't. Nugma, you can put those in the chat. The 2020 State of Computer Science Education report was just released. We had a national webinar that was very well attended last week from people all over the country. That goes into details on what's happening in the nation and in individual states to some degree. There are larger state reports. This particular one on the left, Illuminating Disparities, is 106 pages. So this is not light reading, but it can give you an overview of what's been happening. Simultaneously, Gallup has recently released current perspectives um, in continuing challenges in computer science education in the U.S. So there's still work to do. We've made many strides, but there is a lot of work still yet to be done. I don't expect for you to be able to read this, but I do want you to know that code.org has outlines. So depending on where you are in this whole pipeline, whether you are an administrator, a board member, classroom teacher, building principal, or district administrator, there are 9 fundamental ideas that code.org in connection in collaboration with there's a whole advocacy group that works to develop um, recommendations for policy, and there are 9 principles that we are standing on. So we believe that states should have a plan, that we actually have to define computer science, because when you say that term, it means so many different things to so many different people. Of course, funding is a big thing, and Shayna mentioned that earlier. We just really got funding this year for computer science. I was lucky when I was in the classroom, I was half on the academic side and half on the CTE side. So I did have a budget, but some of my colleagues within my district were just on the academic side, and they couldn't spend money on anything because they didn't have any. And so that is an issue. So even funding a teacher now, we don't want building principals to have to decide, do I hire an English teacher or can I hire a computer science teacher? Because guess what? If he or she has to make that decision, computer science is going to lose every time. So that's a big thing for us as a community. We also, the certification obviously is an issue, and Shayna said, get in there, get those scholarships, get certified, because that's a bottleneck, right? So if we don't have enough teachers to teach, it doesn't matter if every child from kindergarten through 8th grade wants to take computer science when they get to high school. If there's nobody there to teach it, guess what? Then they're not going to have the class. So
Tanya, can you speak a little bit about how TEALS helps folks certify?
yes, I can. So in that certification space, we when the volunteers are working with the teachers, but they can help answer some of their questions. But some of the many of our teachers go through the We Teach CS, and we'll talk about that a little bit later. I'm going to keep moving on these 9 slides, but we want to make sure that that you know what these are, because all of these pieces have to be done. So you've got to create the program, you've got to establish dedicated computer science positions, right? So we don't want them trading off, and we have to allow computer science to satisfy more than just elective credit. So in the state of Texas, for example, now computer science can satisfy 2 years of load, as well as advanced math credits. So that gives us options and makes it a little bit easier to offer the classes. Again, I don't want to expect you to read this, but I do want you to know that in Texas in particular, the combination of CTE and tech apps has resulted in the impact to teachers is significant in that, and I'll show a slide in a minute that it talks about the requirement to teach in the computer science class, because there were different certs that were applicable that allowed you to teach in CTE space, and certain cert requirements that allowed you to teach in tech apps. When they combined them, they actually took the certification requirements from the tech app side, but put the courses under the CTE umbrella. And so the positive is that we now have funding, but the challenge is that the tech apps requirements were a little bit more rigorous and didn't offer as many certifications. And so they're still evaluating some of those now. People have made public comments to address that, and we'll see what the outcome will be. But stay close to that, because that could impact you, and you can work with, if you're in Aldine, you can work with Shayna and let her know, and she can kind of help you do that. Not for you to read again, but Texas Administrative Code, Chapter 231 is where we identify which teachers can teach which class. And so you want to look there to see if you are eligible or what cert you can take that you feel like would help you to get in position. Thank you to to teach the class. So the fundamentals course that Shana mentioned, APCSP, some of the game programming and some of the mobile apps classes can be taught using what we call a Tech App Cert, which is attainable with a little bit of preparation. It is that better too? That might be better too. A little bit better. So the computer science 1, 2, and 3 require the computer science 8 through 12. So the cybersecurity is another area for us now. This one is coming on fast and furious, and curriculum providers are working to get material out there, but these are the requirements that it takes. The CS certification test that you need to take to teach computer science in the state of Texas is the 241. And you can find preparation materials and support. We'll talk about some of the professional development and support models. So as we're looking at the PD that's available to support you in teaching computer science, Rice here in the Houston metro area is the facilitator or the partnership coordinator, if you will, for code.org. And they do professional development for those courses. We teach CS at the top. They provide certification training. You can do those in a variety of formats. Pre-COVID, of course, you could do in person, you could do virtual, you can do virtual synchronous, virtual asynchronous, but you want to make sure you get involved with that. The greater CSTA, Greater Houston, is a part of this, and Shana will talk a little bit about that later. And the computer science teacher is, well, never mind. Then TEALS, of course, our STEM is another Rice office that supports teachers in training for computer science, as well as Carnegie Mellon. Many of the curriculum providers will also have training that goes specifically with their curriculum. And so you want to make sure that you avail yourself of any training that you might need. I'm going to let Shana go ahead and talk about the Computer Science Teacher Association, which we want to see all of you involved in.
I'm going to start off by saying there is a session for CSTA. It's not titled CSTA though. It's the last session underneath the CS strand on the SCED. So if you want to learn additional information about this, feel free to join us this afternoon at 3 o'clock. But CSTA is a local chapter, which is a branch off of the National Computer Science Teachers Association. And what happened?
I'm sorry. That was me. That was me.
I'm like, it went away.
I lost it. I'm sorry. I have it.
Well, we are the local chapter representing Houston and all surrounding areas. And it is specifically not just for those who teach computer science. If you are interested in computer science, if you are an elementary teacher and you want to bring coding into your classroom, join CSTA because they provide lots of different resources. To register for CSTA, it is free. There's no cost to become a member. If you want additional resources, then you can become a CSTA Plus member, which will give you the additional long extended opportunities to receive webinars, additional detailed sessions, all without a charge. So in our chapter, we try to meet. Our goal this year was to meet about 4 times virtually. We've already met our goal for this school year, which is kind of crazy. But virtual does that. It's not a negative. I know we're all tired of looking at a screen and being on Zooms and Meets and Teams. Oh my. But the truth of the matter is it has helped. If you are here locally in the Houston area, traveling across the city is something. That's an understatement. Coming from one area to the other, and being virtual has helped us to be able to meet, to build our local community, strengthen our CS teachers. It allows for us to come together and share different opportunities, not only for teachers, but also for our students. So we have people in here who are going over robotics and teaching different levels of CS. And this allows for us to cross paths easier. So if your kids are looking for some place to compete, then they can come here and learn about the different competitions that are happening across the city. It also, the purpose, the reason I got into it is because most of you are only that one on your campus. So it's really important to know that there's others out there like you and you're not alone. Um, I know the numbers are crazy right now in TCCA, as they should be, because the educator is an educator, that's an educator. However, a CS educator is not the same. Unfortunately, we are cut from a different cloth. So so it's anticipated that our numbers are smaller because we are a specialized group of educators. So if you wanted to join or become a part of CSTA, I will drop that link here in the chat. As a CSTA Plus member, you do get the latest research. There's a lot on policy. There's a lot of push for more advocacy. And there's advocacy groups. CSTA is one of the largest, especially here in Texas. House Bill 3 being included in House Bill 3 was not by chance. So it's really important that you get involved, know what's happening, know how this impacts you and in your classroom. So I do see this is that you are showing CSTA awards and recognition opportunities. Yes. So right now there's a couple of things happening. If you are interested in applying to present, right now the national conference is in July,
November.
and it was supposed to be in Chicago, but is now they have already announced that it's going to be virtual.
Yeah.
And you can apply to present today. Get with somebody, talk with somebody, and see who else would like to present with you. There are lots of opportunities if you know an exceptional computer science teacher. So you could go back one, Tanya. If you know an exceptional computer science teacher, there are all of these different awards that you can apply for. If you know any high school students, there's opportunities. Right now, there's also opportunities if you know any high school girls with NC WIT who
that's coming up.
would like to recognize. I was just on a call this week for the Girls Collaborative, the Texas Girl Collaborative here in Texas. They are also looking if you know of any girls that you want to spot a light on and shine and support and empower. So definitely joining this will give you those opportunities so that you know when things to come. Our goal here in this chapter is to unite, recruit more, and empower you all. So if you're here and you're watching, definitely jump in. I'm passing the mic back.
There we go. So we're gonna, because we want to make sure we get a chance to answer questions. I don't see any, but everybody keep monitoring. So we'll go through these next ones pretty quick because we've talked about we teach CS before, but we wanted to kind of extract them out of the general group because these are the goals that we've set in place. Our first We Teach conference was summer 2015, and we've been working as a community across the state, like Shana said, to impact policy and get these things changed. So we want to first and foremost increase the number of certified teachers, and we've talked about that. That bottleneck prevents us from offering CS because it's a circle, right? It's a continuation. So if we have teachers, of course, then we can increase the number of high schools that offer CS and increase the number of students that enroll. So once we have one teacher and we get a pathway, a 4-year pathway filled, well, if they teach one per one section per grade level, then you only have 2 periods left, 2 or 3 to teach. And so we want to increase the number of students and increase the demand for teachers in the buildings. Then, of course, we want to broaden and diversify the student enrollment, and we've talked about that, and you know that that's important for many, many reasons. But the whole thing is expanding coding and programming and computational thinking across the K-12 spectrum. And so it's not just only about the high school computer science certified teacher, but we need to also prepare our elementary and middle school teachers to deliver instruction and teach students computational thinking skills and to apply that across the whole curriculum area. And so those are policies that we address with the We Teach CS, and we encourage you to go out and check out that site. So We Teach CS actually is that on the UT campus, but this graphic just describes the many facets that we've continued to talk about over the course of this workshop and the previous workshop. So those are all of the areas in professional development that are supported, and you have access to all of those through joining in with the computer science teacher community through CSTA Houston, CSTA for Texas, and the other organizations. So I'm going to pivot now and talk just a little about curriculum. So the next slide is going to be very busy. This is it's the progression chart that the Computer Science Teacher Association has identified the 5 areas where we need to address. And of course, within those areas, there are learning objectives that go along with each of them. But the thing I want you to take away is that we've got these identified across the K-12 spectrum. And so at each level, level 1A, which goes from ages 5 through 7, and then 8 through 11, and then so on. Level 2 starts your middle school, and then level 3A addresses your high school. But all of these elements should go into strong curricula. So when you're evaluating curricula now, you want to evaluate it against this framework, because there are lots of providers. There are lots of good providers out there in the AP space, but as you're looking to curricula for lower grades and you're finding something out there and you're going for something free versus something paid, you can use these standards as a way to evaluate whether or not the curriculum is solid and strong. So that's not intended. So just want to show you what it's a 2-page document that looks like this, but just to show you the objectives by level. So here in Texas, and we'll go through these fast because we've kind of talked about this, at the high school level, there are fundamentals is the entry-level course, which many districts are now offering at the 8th grade level. So just like you can get high school credit for Spanish, you can get high school credit for algebra, you can get high school credit for the first level CS class, which is fundamentals. There's a list of providers that work, that support that area. I should note fundamentals of computer science does not require algebra. CS1 is the second course in the 4-year pathway. It also is supported with many different providers. This is where we generally will come in to support classes as the content gets more rigorous when you move up the pathway. And so we bring in volunteers at this space. There are a list of providers there that you can see. The prereq for CS1 is algebra. So this is generally taught at the 10th grade level. But again, if you've got those students in 8th grade who have taken algebra already, they could come in at that level. APCS principles we've talked about before. Douglas described the course offered by College Board. Again, endorsed providers are available. Just go out to AP Central. Those syllabi have been approved already by College Board, and you can just adopt it right there in the College Board teacher portal. So we provide support for this level as well. Code.org offers a strong curriculum that many in the Houston area use. CS2 or APCSA, there are a number of classes available for that as well. Endorsed curricula are provided at the College Board site, so we're not going to go into those, but we want to make sure that you saw all 4 pathways and that there are lots of options out there for you now. So as we kind of pivot and start talking about organizations and extracurricular activities that become important in this space, as a tool for diversifying interest and inclusion into our space. Shayna mentioned the competitions and clubs. A lot of these came from our CSTA community. One I want to point out, the last one on the list is that CS Honor Society. You can get guidelines for starting a CS Honor Society right there on the CSTA website. So we are excited about that. And I think that also, if you're able to offer that as something for students to attain, it will go a long way to getting some of those high achievers attracted to the space as well, in addition to the fact that we have the 2 AP computer science courses in our space. So I want to draw your attention to 2 events that are coming up. There are a series of webinars. If you're interested in seeing more women speak who are in industry, Targets Women in Science and Technology Group is hosting a series of webinars in October and November, every other Friday, and they're featuring different speakers. You can go out to the I don't know if we can put that Eventbrite and register for that. And Nugma mentioned the award for aspirations in computing applications are open for high school students, and that is for anybody identifying as a woman, as a non-binary, gender neutral, and all of that. So that's a picture of the Texas Houston awardees from last year. I want to encourage you to apply for that, or to recommend and encourage your students to apply, and for you to apply as an educator in addition to that. One of my students earned honorable mention, and she had really just started taking computer science. And I do want to also note that you don't have to have had a computer science class just yet, and but you do have to have a recommendation of a teacher. So we want to encourage you to encourage your students to apply for that um, award for aspirations in computing. The October High School CS updates, if you're in Aldine and you're not subscribed to this, you should definitely, but it's not limited to Aldine. Our my Shiro, Shayna Glass, publishes this, and so I wanted to make sure we give it some pub, and she can put that SMORE address in the chat. So she constantly updates that with opportunities, and we wanted to share that with you. There are some resources and tools that we've compiled. These are by category, some physical computing, K through 12 resources, cyber, different categories. And this is a little resource that we have created. It's something one of the working groups in TEALS worked on for our teachers. And Microsoft in Education. So TEALS is a part of Microsoft Philanthropies, but we also have an education unit that has a ton of resources out there, and they've spiffed that up, if you will. Spiffed is a word, I just made it if it's not. But to even focus more on things that parents can do at home with their students. And there are lots of teacher resources on the Microsoft in Education space. It's a ton of stuff out there. Wanted to talk. Somehow I think I forgot to about the counselor education with CSTA, and Microsoft is we all work together in this space. But one thing that we know is that counselors play a pivotal role in students' course selection. And so there's some education that we need to do in this space. I was in a classroom a couple of weeks ago, well, in a virtual classroom, and one of the volunteers said she struck up a conversation with our delivery boy, whatever he was delivering. And she asked him, had he considered computer science? And he said, no, he was told that the computer science field was saturated. So he didn't take computer science classes in high school. Folks, that is not the message that we want our students to receive, because we know that everything that we touch, everything that we look at, there's some technological component to it. So CS as a broad category is not saturated. And so we want to make sure that we have students, sorry, was trying to read both spaces. Make those available. Make sure that students know what options are available. And we have come to the end. We did better this time. So now we do have 6 minutes for questions.
You have 4 minutes for questions. I mean, yeah, so I can wrap up. But you do have some questions, and they do want to
Okay.
know if you could give them the links to the resources that you shared. Can you
Yes.
give that?
So I was somehow, I was trying to. Oh, yes.
While she's looking for that, I am going to share with you the
Chris.
secret word for this session, which is inspire. So the secret word, remember, you're receiving an email with your certificate for signing up for this session. And the only way you can open a certificate is by entering the secret word, which is case sensitive. Inspire. Are you all there? Did Tanya freeze?
I'm here.
Oh, okay. Okay, I'm good.
I think we were waiting on some questions to come through.
Oh,
Sylvia's double checking
it
the
should be,
secret word, super secret word. Sorry.
yeah, the super secret word should be inspire. Do we lowercase or uppercase? It should be case sensitive. So inspire with an I, with a capital I, and there is no D. So just INSPIRE. If and when we get a CS spot, do the TILS volunteers keep in touch with newbie teachers to instruct us on content that we may struggle for? It might be a struggle for us. So when they become a CS teacher and they are with the TEALS volunteers after that year, do they keep up with them if they have questions? Can they reach out to them? You know, if they are or are not still a TEALS volunteer, or do they, you know, how does it work? Is it just 1 year? Maybe that might help answer the question.
That's a great question. So we definitely don't want to support for a year and then peace out, right? Because we want to make sure that that teacher feels really comfortable moving forward. So every year we ask schools to reapply because we want to reevaluate what the needs are. So, you know, that teacher may need another year. If you remember back in the beginning, we talked about co-teach and lab support. That teacher may need another year of co-teach, right? To really feel supported and hear how volunteers explain the content, or that teacher may feel comfortable moving into a lab support model where the volunteers take a step back, but are still present very regularly in the classroom. Alternatively, that teacher may be ready to move into alumni, which means that they're ready, they're comfortable, but they still have access to volunteers on the alumni forums, or I think it's a Yammer page at this point. And so they can talk to volunteers who are also supporting other alumni teachers and just get guest speakers. If they have a CS related question, they can go there to ask. So no, short answer is no. We never want to just leave y'all high and dry. We'll be there to support throughout the process.
Okay, so I'm going to jump back on and I'm going to say, everybody give a virtual shout out to Nugma and Tanya, and to Anna, our co-host who's in the back channel and watching us, and Marilyn, and our YouTube watcher. We have a team that is working with us. I'm sharing the notes and the resources here. Definitely follow them on Twitter for additional resources. Their Twitter handles are attached to their name. And if you have any additional questions, they are available. Oh, they want to know, Tanya, if you can share the spreadsheet of the tools and resources. Yes. So, and thank you, Tanya, for putting in that link to that Target partnership session. That's a great one. I am getting ready to stop this session, this recording, this broadcast in about 10 seconds. If you have any additional questions,
Nugma,
feel free to reach
sorry.
out.
Nugma, can you I'm gonna put the other
Yes.
resource, the spreadsheet